I wanted to share with you about the scariest day of my life. The scariest day of my life was one morning when it was a couple of years ago, when my daughter was around 3 years old, and we were sleeping and we were doing co-bedding with her. She would sleep with us, co-sleeping, I think it's called. And I woke up at 5 a.m. and I noticed that there was something wrong with her. She had her eyes open and she was not responsive. And as a mother, I cannot even describe how scary that feeling is. And I'm sure that if there are any other mothers looking at this and they can relate to this, they know that even when our kids get a cold, we as moms tend to feel very triggered by this. Our instinct is going to move us, this very animal instinct is going to move us to try to protect them. So when I saw her unresponsive, it was the scariest day of my life. And even though I had some medical background because I went to med school for a couple of years, in that moment, anything that you have learned before just goes out the window completely. My husband and I were pretty much running around the house and we didn't really know what to do. I honestly didn't know what was happening with her. I thought she was having a stroke. We were able to find out later that what was actually happening was that she was having a seizure, but that was it. For me, it was like an everlasting seizure. Like it wouldn't end. And then when it finally did, the ambulance came to our house and then picked us up and then took us to a hospital. And we were kept there throughout the whole day. And we were not living in a main city like the main city of Colombia. I'm from Colombia, is Bogota. And we were outside of the city because it was around that whole COVID time. And we had decided to move out of the city so we would have more freedom of movement. There was a very strict lockdown around that time in the city that we lived in. So after that, they moved us in an ambulance to head to Bogota. And there we had to stay for 5 days under observation. And under those 5 days, I barely slept. I think I lost 4 kilograms or so. So that's 8 pounds. And it was very, very challenging for me as a mom, trying to figure out what to do about my daughter and just trying to move her back to health. And now I'm going to explain a little bit of why does this happen. A lot of the people who are in this group are very interested or feel the calling of being healers. And as healers, what is happening, or when we choose to be healers, or when we choose to assist people throughout their healing process, it's because we have a story on an ancestral level that says, up here, there weren't enough healers or someone that was able to assist someone in a very bad moment in their life, right? So we choose to do that. We feel it's our calling. We're doing it from an unconscious story, from an unconscious mechanism, but we feel very drawn to it. It's our calling. We are here to serve, right? And because of that, we tend to have these very important traits that tend to be very common to us, which we don't respect our own boundaries. We get out of our own way to try to assist people. And we might even feel drawn to not charging for the service that we're providing because it's so deeply ingrained, like that act of service, that we, in many cases, do not consider appropriate to charge other people. In many of these cases, we also leave ourselves on the side. What does this mean? It means that our needs are not as important as any other people needs. So we're gonna try to help others despite ourselves. This also means that in many cases, we are going to ignore the things that trigger us. We are either going to bury those under a lot of layers of love or of what we think is love, or we're going to put band-aids on them. But then your soul, your psyche, your subconscious mind is so wise, because nature is so wise, that if you're not able to see the conflicts within yourself, then the conflict is going to be moved to the following generation, because it knows that there's nothing stronger than that motherly instinct that for our kids, we're going to try to move mountains. And by looking at them and seeing our conflict reflected on them, then we are actually going to start working on that conflict. So that's pretty much what happened in that case. And there's a lot of moms out there that can relate to this and say, I remember I used to suffer from anxiety my whole life. But it wasn't until my kids started showing that anxiety that I started trying to wonder, why was I going through this, right? And so this is the way that it works. In my case, which is her presenting a physical symptom, which is an epilepsy, it's actually showing me the emotional cause of the epilepsy, which talks about an abrupt separation between mother and children. And so throughout her symptom, I was actually able to see in how many ways was my mother not a present mother for me, because she was paying attention to my father mainly. And then here, all these children wanting her attention were not able to get it. It was an abrupt separation mediated by a fatherly figure. That's what epilepsy is talking to us about. And then throughout working on that and going deep and understanding, I was able to realize that I was starting to do the same thing to my daughter. I was starting to not being a very present mother, not paying so much attention. And then that's like when this big alarm sign just exploded and just showed it throughout a seizure. You're going through the same path. But if we are not constantly understanding what our bodies or our kids' bodies are trying to tell us, then we won't have a way of knowing, right? And why does this happen though? Why would a mother not be as present as mothers tend to be with their kids? For this lineage, for my lineage, this is a reparation of something that also happened higher up in the family tree, which is a mother that got too close to her daughter, and that ended up causing a big tragedy. So immediately your subconscious, your psyche, your soul understands that the best way to repair this is to try to make mothers that have a trait of being distant to their kids. But this is like, let's say, a little patch that it puts on top of the wound. It's not really going to heal the wound. It's just a patch. The way we heal is through going to that wound and getting all the pus out and understanding, where did this wound originated? Why is this adaptation here in front of me? Why is my daughter, my son manifesting the symptom that I'm seeing in front of me? So I wanted to share a little bit about this part of my story. The other three top moments of me being absolutely terrified in my life are related to my daughter also having seizures. One of those was on a plane coming back to the US from Colombia. But when that one happened, which was very, very scary as well, I was able to understand the why behind it. If you see this, I was literally physically separating from my mother again because I was flying to a country where she's not at. But at the same time, symbolically, I was moving away from my mother as well, my native mother, my earth, my country. Mm? So symbolism and reality are very important when we are understanding symptoms. And I would be very happy to share a little bit more about this and how unexpressed emotions end up creating the universe that you are experiencing right now. And for this, I'm going to be creating a workshop, and I'll be posting the details later in the group. But so far, I wanted to share this, and I wanted to invite all the moms out there seeing this video to think a little bit about this perfect creation that you have placed for you to learn and to understand, which are your kids, and in which aspects are they showing you unresolved situations from your own life. So that's my invitation for today. And so if you want to share, please post it here in the comments. And I am very happy to share this space with you. And I hope you're having a wonderful Monday.